I'm Carlotta, and together with my colleagues Florian, Riccardo, Alessio, and Martina, we research Smart TV security. And with our work, I Still Know What to Watch Last Sunday, we are now investigating the HbbTV protocol in the Smart TV landscape. So I would like to start with a question. So has it ever happened to you that while watching regular television, you were displayed with such banners like press the red button, press the green button, whatever, so to have more functionalities, to interact? Well, if that is the case, then it means you experience the Hybrid Broadcast Broadband Television protocol. This initiative dates back to 2009, when a group of industry leaders led by German broadcaster RTL decided to gather together and come up with a solution to keep the standard television at pace with new digital services such as Netflix. And so they came up with this idea of trying to harmonize broadcast and broadband delivery of entertainment services to the consumer. And this happens via two parallel communication networks. So first we have the well-known broadcast network over DVB. And then they came up also with an additional connection, the internet connection via the broadband interface. The way HbbTV apps are delivered, so they are embedded as URLs in the standard broadcast signal. And once the Smart TV receives the signal, and if it is connected to the internet, it then extracts such URLs and loads them in the built-in browser of the Smart TV. And the way they're shown is as a transparent graphical overlay on top of the regular TV channels. The functionalities that such applications deliver are multiple. They can span from rewatch programs or interact with music videos showing like lyrics, or even shopping application. Okay, so here's a brief summary of the architecture we are talking about. So as we can see, we have the two parallel communications, the broadcast, which is unidirectional, so the broadcaster can communicate with the television, but there is no mean for the television to communicate back anything. Instead, we have the broadband communication, where it's bidirectional, so they both communicate both ways. And additionally, additional devices can enter the architecture, such as companion screen devices, such as smartphones or laptops. In our case, we are having a look at the threads for both communication and see what HbbTV is up to. We decided, so HbbTV is an European protocol, and we perform our analysis across 5 different countries, which are Finland, Germany, Austria, France, and Italy, for a pool of 36 channels from 36 different broadcasters, which we selected based on audience share and offered content. So right now, Germany is the leading country in the adoption of HbbTV, but other countries are catching up quite quickly as well. Our testing methodology first starts with recording the traffic generated by the application and by the Smart TV. We record traffic for 1 hour, and we divide our setup into 4 phases. First, we record traffic without any type of interaction. We then accept the privacy consent and interact with the suggested buttons, like navigating submenus and accessing content. We then decide to revoke such consent, such privacy consent, and again, listen, looking what type of communication takes place without interacting with the application at all. And last step that is necessary for us to understand if there are some differences with revoking consent or not, we give back the privacy consent and then turn off and on the TV again on the same channel. It goes without saying that we perform a factory reset for every channel to avoid interferences between tests. This methodology is actually adapted from previous work by Guillieri et al. From Dartmouth University. But we faced a problem with this approach because their study dates back to 2015 when HbbTV was still at its beginning. And so we faced a lot of HTTPS and that we couldn't bypass. And so we decided to come up with an off-TV traffic inspection. The way it works, so we extract the URLs of the HbbTV application from the broadcast stream, making use of the MPEG library, the TSDAC, and also a modulator that helps us to get the broadcast signal on our laptop. And we then, with this URL, open it in a browser and mimic the Smart TV environment by binding key events to the right one of the remote controller and simulating a fake broadcast stream. And we, again, perform this traffic collection for 30 minutes, again, with the same 4 phases described before. Just here to give you an idea of how HbbTV looks like. So on the left side, we have a human-readable translated broadcast signal where, there is the service name, and then there are the different sections that made up the broadcast signal, such as audio, video. And then we have 2 sections which are very interesting to us, that are the application information table. And if we then decide to extract those ones, we get what is on the right. Again, humanly readable translated, where we can find the actual URL leading to the HbbTV application and some codes that basically tell if the application should be started right away or just after some others were already loaded. And yeah, while we were recording traffic, we noticed something weird going on. And so we stopped a bit and had a look at the domains that we encountered. And yeah, they looked familiar in a way that, so they kind of resemble tracking domains. And so the TV is actually tracking us, surprisingly or not, depends on your opinions. But so we wanted to have a better understanding of how they actually track us and what is the what this entails. So in terms of privacy consent, we found that 26 channels, or more than half, communicate with trackers before users has expressed their consent to privacy policies. And again, 7 do not actually present ever such policies and are nowhere to be found in any of the submenus of the application. In Austria, all the 4 channels, or the 4 national channels, contact tracktvping.com, which is a tracking domain every second before user has expressed their consent, in a way to understand what is the user is up to, what interaction is it doing with the application, and very invasive. In terms of tracking, all the channels we surveyed actually contact at least 1 tracking domains, with some that contact at least 10, others that just contact 1, with different periodicity, like every second, as we saw before, or just less frequently. And we found out that there is a tracking technique that is peculiar to Smart TVs, that is the tracking pixel. So it consists of uploading this 1-by-1 pixel image that is invisible to the naked eye, and it tells the broadcaster what part of the application the user is accessing. So basically, after a GET request, this 1-by-1 pixel image is returned, and the broadcaster has an idea of what interaction the user is having with the application. As for unencrypted traffic, so I said before that we had some problems because we encountered HTTPS, but also we encountered a lot of plain text in 24 channels with sensitive data that were leaked, such as device IDs or ISP information, geographical information about the user. And even more worryingly, we found out that there is a German shopping channel, HSC, which allows users to create accounts and purchase things actually on the HbbTV application. And in the process of creating the account for shopping, we've noticed that everything is sent over HTTP without any type of encryption, so username, passwords, credit card data. And at some point we stopped because, of course, we didn't want to leak our data to anyone. But yeah, that's an issue that was already pointed out in 2014 and actually never fixed. So yeah, so as I said, European, so GDPR comes into the play. We found out several violations to it. First of all, tracking before users' consent represents a violation of condition for consent. And also the possibility to revoke the consent should be doable and as easy as giving it, which is not the case for all channels. So we found out that around 10 channels do not actually allow the users to revoke consent to privacy. Also, the absence and incorrectness of these policies also represents a violation of transparent communication, which is a significant problem in terms of privacy. And yeah, also other major issues we found are, for example, online shopping apps that are now being deployed and developed over HbbTV, which are, of course, like a security hazard. And as we just saw, the handling of data should be done in a careful way, but it's not always the case, and this can lead to information theft or credential leaks. We just saw how is the situation broadcaster side, let's say. We wanted to understand what is the level of awareness of users with respect to smart TVs, because smart TV, well, TVs in general are considered like a safe device, generally, are not perceived as something that could impact our security and privacy that much. So we investigated the awareness of the security, of the risk, and also we presented users with 8 different types of risky scenarios, like the TV is tracking you or the TV is collecting information to show you personalized adverts, and evaluated the risk score assigned by the participants. We also investigated if users read privacy policies when they are presented to them. And finally, we asked them how they would like to connect the smart TV with more security, with more functionalities, with a mix of them. And we find out that more than 2/3 actually couldn't mention any risk related to smart TVs in general. Among the other ones, most of them mentioned just one, which is tracking or profiling of preferences of TV viewing preferences. And again, more than 2/3 never read policies when they are presented to them, being them too difficult to understand or too long. And if we just narrow this down to HbbTV, then more than 90% never reads them when they are shown on the TV. But on the contrary, we find that the average risk score are quite high, ranging from 2.7 to almost 4. So showing that there is actually some concern with security risk for smart TVs, but there is a miscommunication, or at least a lack of awareness of what actually those risks are. So yeah, to summarize now, we are in the process of disclosing such information with national certs that are involved in the process. It's a slow process, but it's going on. And also, we are planning to investigate more countries and more channels across Europe, and also see if there is a similar protocol in other countries, such as the US, because so far it seems like this is a very peculiar situation of delivering an application over the broadcast signal. But yeah, anyway, those are my contact information. If you're interested, please reach out to me. And all the code that we use for our study is public on GitHub. And yeah, if you have any question, I'm here to answer.
Hello, I'm Knut Eckstein from the European Space Agency. I was wondering whether you looked also at the differential of transport mechanisms. So the DVB can be carried over satellite, over a terrestrial cable, IP, UDP, and of course terrestrial wireless. Do the operators feed the same amount of tracking independent of the transport?
So we only had a look at DVB-T, so DVB terrestrial. And to be honest, no idea if the other communication mechanisms are tracking more or less, but I think this is also not dependent on the transportation mechanism, more on the broadcaster, like, because the applications are actually developed by the broadcaster themselves, so it's also up to them to decide, oh yeah, I want to serve this functionality, and to do this I want to track users because it's more profitable for me or whatever. So, yeah.
I was thinking that, for example, by cable television there are already other tracking mechanisms, so they might be less inclined, or not, this might not be needed to do this when you deliver an FX stream via cable. That was the idea that maybe, but of course, they could do it completely agnostically. They could say, I do it anyway, over every transport medium.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Sorry. Was the last part of the question? Because I couldn't. Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Just a comment, I think.
Okay.
Hey, it's Timothy Braunschweig. I was wondering if you cross-checked the content of the privacy policies with the transmitted data.
So partially we did. For example, there are some problems, let's say, with so as I spoke before about the tracking pixel, this one-by-one pixel image that is uploaded. There are some, for example, privacy policies that do mention that this technique is actually used, while others just don't. Or in general, that the information is not always matching. So there are some channels that, for example, never mention that cookies are set, but they are actually set. So yeah, we didn't really went too deep into the analysis of the privacy policies themselves, but yeah, at the first glance, of course, there were already some problems with them, that some things that were supposed to happen and that did happen in terms of privacy violations, let's say, or privacy collection of data. Thank you.
Excellent. For time's sake, we're going to cut the questions here and move on. So let's thank the speaker.